Jimbo's Garage.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to Jimbo's Garage. Well, today's project, I'm going to be building probably what is the biggest single hung swing gate I've ever done. Now this gate is 5.5 feet tall, maybe 5'9" tall, which isn't very tall, but the projection is just over 13 feet long and supported by a single hung post on a block wall. So what I'm worried about here is a little bit of sag at the end of that 13 feet. I've done several gates, 10 feet, 11 feet, and 12 feet, and I've had pretty good success for those with no sag, little or no sag, I should say. But boy, the longer you start reaching out there, it just increases that chance of that gate starting to sag. Typically on gates that big, I use these weld-on hinges. Now this is a 5-inch weld-on hinge right here. Weight capacity 750 pounds. Haven't had any problem with that, but because I'm reaching out so far right here, I'm just a little worried. So I'm jumping up to this 10¼ inch weld-on hinge, 3/4 inch pin right here. Weight capacity 1,250 pounds. Now this gate is only going to weigh about 250 pounds complete, but I'm just worried about that extension way out. So I've got a little drawing of what this gate's going to look like, and basically it's just going to be a metal frame, and we're going to have some wood inserts on the inside, and that wood is going to be a 1x8 called Windsor 1. It is a paintable grade wood, select, and the finished size dimension of the wood is 3/4 inch by 7.5 inch. So I've got this drawing. Let me show you what this looks like, and we're going to build this gate together, and hopefully it turns out the way I'm hoping.
Today's video is sponsored by King Metals. They've got all your fabrication needs in one location. From hinges to hardware, balusters to metal decor, brass to aluminum, and a whole lot more. You name it, they've got it. Check them out today at kingmetals.com. Now let's get back to today's video.
Okay, so here's the plan right here. I hope you guys can see it. I hope the color's right. It's always hard to get the thing adjusted right on my welding table, but with the lighting. But anyways, I'll kind of go through the whole thing with you. Right over here is the block wall that I'm going to be mounting to, and it is solid ground. It is a retaining wall, so there's plenty of strength right there. The projection, like I said, is slightly over 13 feet. And the tricky thing about this right here is this post is already installed. I've concreted it in. It's a 4-inch by 4-inch by quarter wall thickness, and it is already installed in the concrete. I had recently poured the concrete underneath here, and so this is the tricky part. I've got to be able to hang this gate, and it needs to span across here and flush out with the top of this post. What I'm a little worried about. Therefore, this is why I'm using these massive hinges right here. So the material we're going to be using is 2-inch by 2-inch square tube all the way around the outside, and some supports here in the center. And I'm going to be using, on stuff like this, I typically use 0.63 wall thickness, which is a 1/16 of an inch. And for most cases and most gates, that's plenty strong enough. But for this one here, I'm stepping it up. I'm going 0.95. This is just under an 1/8 of an inch. 120 wall thickness is an 1/8 of an inch. So this is just under that a little bit. It's a little bit heavier duty. I'm hoping that that's going to work with the weight that we're going to have on that. And then what you see in the center right here is this Windsor 1. Now, this is a paint grade, like I'd mentioned, wood. And we're going to be stacking it in here horizontally. And it's going to be painted in this light brown or tan color, and the frame of this gate's going to be black. So this is what I'm hoping it's going to look like, and this is what I'm hoping it's going to look like installed, nice and flat and flush. So let's get started. We'll do it together, and we'll hope for the best.
All right, so here we go. I love a challenge. You know, I keep telling myself that I am not going to do any more big projects here in the shop, but that doesn't last long. All right, so here I am setting this long piece up right here, a little over 13 feet. And you see, when you're setting long material up like this, it's important to
to get it level. You can see I've got a rest on my workbench for shorter pieces, and then I've also got a rest out there at the very end. You can see that. Now I know I got everything nice and level, and I'm making my 45 cuts right here. And of course, no problem cutting this with the Champion cutoff blade right here. Tons and tons of cuts on this thing. Alright, so I got the big pieces done, and now I'm on to the shorter pieces. I want to get all the pieces I want that I need cut, and then we'll start the assembly right here. Alright, got them all done, and yep, this is my table crane. I did this a while back, and you can see that I've used it a couple times since I've done it, but here we need to take it off, and 4 quick bolts right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is ready to come off the table. And it comes off just for reasons like this. This is a big project, and I need all of my table to make this happen right here. My table is only 10 feet long by 5 feet wide. I say only. That's a big table. But this is a bigger gate, and I need all the room I possibly can. So I'm starting off with my table dogs right here on these two, the long piece and the short piece, and I'm going to go ahead and clamp it down, and I'm going to get this part of it welded right here as much as I can. And then I've got to extend my table out. So I've got these fab squares right here that are a part of the table from weldtables.com, and they're 18 inches long, and I've got them clamped to the side of the table, and that gives me the extension that I need to just reach out that extra 5 foot 9 inches, I believe the overall length is. And it's going to allow me to go ahead and put that piece on here, and it is extended past the end of my table, and I just clamped on a couple of pieces of flat bar stock to get that end on there. Checking for square, and now I know I'm going to get a lot of comments in the comment section about you're wearing sandals as a fabricator. I'm aware of that. Years ago I used to do this a lot, and I don't recommend it, but what happened here is I didn't have any intentions of doing any welding at this point. You know, I started this video out and I was just going to do the cutting and then stop, and then the next day I was going to move forward, but things were moving along here so good that I decided I'm just going to keep on going. Nah, I didn't even realize I had my sandals on, but nevertheless, I'll have my boots on here shortly. Things are moving along here nicely. You can see I've got a couple of pipe clamps and holding everything nice nice and square and nice and flat. This is the important thing when you go to make something like this. You want to be sure everything is square and everything is flat. It's very easy to not get it that way and have a section that might be higher or lower. But, you know, just be sure everything is flat, as flat as you can. All right. Getting this welded up on the one side right here. I'm going to be able to take these fab blocks off here, fab squares off now, because I can rest it on the table with these cross section pieces in there, and it's going to stay just fine. Before I flip it over and weld the other side, this is a good opportunity for me to grind the welds down and clean up this side as much as I can. I just don't want to be moving this frame around too much. It's big and awkward. As a matter of fact, I'm going to need some help doing that, and you'll see that here in a minute. I had my daughter. She was available to help me flip it around. It would have been very difficult for me to do that. And just like that, up and over, and that sure made things a lot easier. You can see this is the next day, by the way, and I do have my boots on, so highly recommend doing boots, not sandals. Too many years of doing it in sandals, too many holes in my socks, and burn marks on my feet. But all right, so everything is moving along here real good. I'm just finishing up the grinding on the welds on this side right here. And I'm really happy so far with the way things are turning out. You know, I got to tell you, in my head the whole time, though, I'm thinking, how is this gate? I'm putting so much work into this. I'm so worried about this gate not hanging or sagging, and me not being able to fix it. And I'm telling you, this is a couple of weeks of building this thing, and I'm worried about that the whole time. All right, so we're on to the frame here. This is the
3/4 inch by 1/8 inch flat bar stock, and I use this stuff around the interior part, and this is what retains the wood from the backside. You know, I can't say enough about these mag squares. I've talked about them in my videos, and I get these things on Amazon. I'm not affiliated with them by any means, but I started buying 2 of them, and I bought 4, and I bought 6. I must have 20 of these things now, and just for this reason right here, just going all the way around, and these mag squares holding everything in place, really helps in the fabrication part. Very inexpensive. Amazon, I think they're like $11 or something like that, but they're super handy to have. But they don't do the perfect trick. You can see that I'm using my hand all the way around and holding it in place. The mag squares hold them up flush and hold them in position, but when you introduce heat to it, they start to pull away a little bit, so you definitely need to get your hand in there and be sure that it's tight against the frame and flush to the surface as well. All right, so I've got to do this on all 3 of them, and you can see that I'm just putting for that time being, I'm just putting a little tack, just a little bump tack all the way around, and once everything is in position and I'm happy with it, then I'll go back and extend those bump tacks to about 1 inch long. You can see that in the centerpiece right there. Once everything is in, and then I'll just go and weld them out about 1 inch long all the way around, 6 to 8 inches apart. It doesn't need much. You're just retaining the wood. You can see what I'm talking about as I'm coming along here, and I start to weld right here. You might see that it has a tendency, once you start doing this, to pull away. This is why I use my hand to pull it back in and be sure it's flush to the surface. All right, all that stuff out of the way, and then I'm just going to grind those welds flush to the surface. And I know it doesn't look real attractive at this point, but it is going to be powder coated black, and trust me, you're not going to see this once it's powder coated. Well, I'm really happy with the progress so far, moving along, and now it's time for the post. This is the post that's going to be mounted to the block wall. This is a 1 inch by 3 inch by 120 wall thickness. And what you don't see on the side there is I've already pre-drilled the 4 mounting holes that I'm going to use. And then I'm clamping it together. I'm getting ready to weld these massive hinges on. It's important that everything is nice and flat, everything is nice and level, and is lined up perfectly here. These massive hinges, I've never used anything quite like this before, but nevertheless, what's important about weld-on hinges here is you get them in line, and they got to be lined up parallel to the post right there. You can see that I've got a tack in there, and I'm trying to get things bent around. I want to pull them up so it is nice and in line. If you don't, then you're going to have a problem. The gate is, you're never going to get the posts lined up. The gate is not, it's going to bind. It's not going to open smoothly. Trust me, I've learned the hard way. So this is how important it is to be sure that everything is in line. And that's what I'm doing right here. A couple of tacks. You can see that that one is out of square, and I'm lining it up, and I get a couple tacks in. Now, before I go any farther, I want to double check to be sure that this thing comes off nicely and goes on nicely, and I'm happy with that. So now I can go ahead and weld everything out. Now I am going to take my time here a little bit. I want to have a nice weld on here. This weld is not going to be ground down, and so I want to have something that looks nice. You never know. You might get that one person that comes along and wants to take a look at the quality of your gate and your welds, and it's nice to be able to have something that looks somewhat nice on there anyway. One important thing too about this, as I learned the hard way as well, is there's 2 welding points on these bullet hinges, and that is one side here and the other side there. Do not weld any more than that on these. I've tried before to flip them around and put additional welds on the other side. Does not work. This is designed to work just like this, and it's plenty strong. All right, with all that done, it's time for the drop pin. Now, the drop pin is something that I make my own, by the way. You can get these at your local big box store or hardware store or wherever.
but they're kind of small, they're kind of cheap, and I like making my own. A little bit more heavy duty, a lot more bigger. This thing is about 36 inches long. And this is some 3/4 inch by 0.65 wall thickness here on the square tubing. And this is a 5/8 end mill, and I'm just running that through right there, hogging out, cleaning that up, opening it up, and then I'm going to run it through right here. One thing you might see is I'm going to run it through, and it's going to catch the edge, and it's going to do a little bit of bend right there. And I've recently started doing this with the end mill, and it's much faster and it's much easier than what I used to do, and that was just with a cutoff wheel, and that was hard. It took some time, and it was never accurate. This worked out really good. No problem. I straighten that edge up with bare pliers, and you're back in business. Much faster this way. And the idea of what we're doing right here is so that pin can slide in and close at the bottom, and then pull open and slide over at the top in the open position. And that's what we're doing in case you guys aren't following along here. A couple small weld beads, maybe 1 inch long on either side. It doesn't require too much. There's not a lot of pressure on this part of the deal. And that's just about all you need there. And then this is a 9/16 solid round bar, cold rolled, and this is, I'm making the handle. All right, so I'm using my benzene torch here for this. It took forever. You know, my acetylene torch was in the other shop, and I didn't want to go get it for this, so I just took my time and did it with the benzene torch. But that's the way that operation works right there. And then, of course, I'm putting a thumb latch on the inside. And that's what we're going to do right there, is weld that on. And now it's back from the powder coaters, and it's time to install the wood. I've already pre-cut the wood and pre-painted it several coats. And this is a 1x8 tongue and groove Windsor 1 wood. And you can see that I've pre-cut everything and just sliding that tongue and groove in there and installing the wood. Really a clean application. You know, I'm really excited about the way things are going right now. The only one down thing, I'm sure I'm going to get somebody to say, hey, you're putting a small piece at the bottom. Wouldn't you want to balance it up and put this, 2 equal pieces, top and bottom? Well, that would have been about 2-inch pieces, top and bottom, and it just didn't look right. So I decided I'm just going to make the small cut, which is about 4 inches there at the bottom of the gate, and I'm going to be okay with that. All right, with all the wood in place, this is the 3/4 inch angle iron, and this is what I use to hold everything in place. And this is in my opinion, this is a good way to go, because if you need to replace the wood for some reason, these are just screwed in. You can remove the screws and the angle iron, and the wood can be easily replaced. So everything is laid in there, and now it's time for the installation. And this is you can see those little blue. Those are plastic pieces there, and what I'm using is, because it's powder coated and I'm pulling that angle iron down tight, clamping it down tight, I don't want to mar the surface. And I learned that the hard way. I completely ruined a gate by clamping on the outside, and I'm telling you, make a mistake and you learn from it. And so now it's a little bit more careful. And of course, the cardboard is so I don't mar the wood surface or destroy the paint with the drill there. And then I've got that little blanket right there to put all my stuff on. I don't know, it's all the small things. It's all the detail. Once you get this far along in the project, you know, you want to be sure that you don't want to ruin it. And this is why I do the things that we do right here. Vacuum all the pieces up, and then just work my way around the table. Now, this is the first time that I've used Windsor wood. I've used lots of different wood on lots of different gates. Now, this is this is pretty cool if you're looking for a painting situation. And the tongue and groove makes it really nice. It keeps everything nice and flat, and it gives it that good look. And of course, you can paint it any color you want. A lot of work went into this gate right here. I've got several hours in it. You know, I do work by myself, and this is not my, YouTube is not my full-time job. I kind of wish it was, because I really enjoy doing this type of stuff, but it's not. And so I only get a little bit of time to work on this each night, and but I do enjoy it very much. You can see in the background there, a little hint, that is the single man gate that's going to go with this project. And you will see that at the very end of the video. I didn't film making that man gate or the little side panel there. I was more focused on the big gate here. All right, there it all is. And I got to say, I'm pretty happy with it. And it's time for the installation on this. And that's the big deal. Now, I did not show the installation. Of course, it was hours of installing. But I do want to tell you that it did go good. You'll see that here in a minute. There's the installation. I did hit my mark on that post on the left side. It did hung nice and flat, which is a big relief. And that's what that gate looks like from the front. Swings real nice. There's the man gate on the side with the side panel. Overall, it was a great job. It's a good look. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next build.
See you next time on Jimbo's Garage.